Hi, I'm Dana and welcome to another episode of Learning to be Autistic. For those that don't know, this is just a little series where I talk about lots of different things that come about after finding out you're autistic as you try and as I try to figure out how to live life as myself, as an average person who also happens to be autistic basically. And today I wanted to talk about coming out as autistic. I know that there's a little bit of a discussion between the autistic and the LGBT community as to if it's okay to use that term, but as part of the LGBT community, I'm going with it. I think it's the most obvious thing, it's the most simple thing. It's what you do when you're coming out as autistic. So that's what we're going with. Because it's something that I don't feel like we talk about a lot. You're either out and open about it, like I am now, or you're not. And it's just not really spoken about. But I found it really, really difficult to figure out when I should tell people and if I should tell people and so on and so forth. I'm gonna start at the beginning, which is why I felt like I couldn't or didn't want to come out as being autistic to people. I didn't really want people to know. And a lot of it was internalized ableism. A lot of it was just ableism in general, never mind internalized. You know, there's a very specific way that society, I guess, views autistic people. And I'd very much bought into that and eaten that up, you know. My older brother's autistic, so I spent quite a lot of time around children who had high support needs as a kid. So my idea of an autistic person was very much someone who can be happy and friendly and excited and whatever else, because these were people I got on with as a child. But they were also people that have massive meltdowns. They're also people who really struggle to share and can be quite selfish in some ways. They're the little white boy that really likes trains. I just had a lot of ideas that were really, really wrong about what autism really is. And I didn't see my place in it. I didn't see where I could fit into it. I was pretty sure I am autistic. I'd had my diagnosis, but I just didn't see the place in the community that I fit into. And I felt if I told people, especially people in my real life, my boss and my friends and people I worked with, I very much felt if I told them that I was autistic, they'd start sort of walking on eggshells around me, It'd be oh, are we going to do this thing that makes Dana have a meltdown? Suddenly, every time things got a little bit awkward, it wouldn't be that I'm a bit of an awkward person, it'd be Dana's autistic and that makes it awkward, I was very much worried about being seen as an autistic person rather than just a person. And I definitely still have some degree of fear about that I think is internalised ableism to a degree. But also, society likes to pigeonhole people. We like to say, this is what the person is, this is their label. And we have lots of labels as people. One of mine happens to be that I'm autistic, but I was worried that people would view that as my only label. And like I say, I still have some degree of fear of that. That's why all of my social medias also focus on fashion and vintage stuff. Because I really, I think it's internalized ableism, honestly. It's something that I need to work through for me. But there's so much more to me, and to all autistic people, there's so much more to us than just being autistic. And I don't want to be viewed as just Dana the autistic girl. And I was also really concerned that people would lower their expectations of me. And not in the way of not in that they'd be putting less pressure on me or that they'd be more accommodating. I was worried they'd have lower expectations in me in the way of in my job, my boss maybe wouldn't ask me to do certain things that he previously would have because I'm autistic. Will I be able to handle it? Will I be able to do it? Am I gonna have a meltdown, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't need to worry for all of the flaws that my last boss had, which was many. He never did that. I don't think he ever lowered his expectations of what I could and couldn't do because I was autistic. But I do wonder if he would have had both myself and him knowing from the start. Because I'd been working there for, I think, a year, maybe 6 months to a year when I found out I was autistic. And like I say, I was really scared about telling people about it. I was probably there for a further 6 to 9 months after that before I actually told him that was what it was. And fortunately, he reacted to it very, very well. Of all the issues that I have with him, that's not one of them, because he reacted to it really well. He was just oh, okay then. I feel like he told me, oh yeah, they thought I was autistic as a kid, or his son was. He told me something or another. It's a nice little relatable story, which I felt was a little unnecessary. But I get the sentiment, But because I was so worried about people in my real life knowing, I didn't venture into any of the autistic communities online or mention it all online because people that I knew from work followed me on like Twitter and Instagram and that, and I'm just not a person that has multiple accounts. I can't keep up with it, it would never happen. But as I continued to like process the fact that I'm autistic, I increasingly needed some sort of like support and guidance and like someone to relate to, please, kind of thing. And that was when I was like, oh, I need to just stop being so concerned about this, you know? If people then, like, after knowing that I'm autistic, if they just see me as an autistic person, then that's their loss, isn't it? You know, it's very, very difficult. I'm not always the best at it, but I'm trying to be the person that just, if someone doesn't contribute positively to my life, I don't need them in it. You know, I don't expect everyone to be a positive contribution all the time. People have stuff going on. Sometimes I'm going to need to be the positive contribution to someone else's life. But if it's a very base thing of like, they're ableist and they're just underestimating me and infantilizing me and whatever else because I'm autistic, I don't need them. And yet I was so worried about people being like that because I don't want to have to cut off someone that I like, you know? But I haven't had that reaction. So my mum knew I was autistic because she had to go to the diagnosis with me. And I told my brother the same day because it's my brother and he was there, me and my mum were talking about it. It just made it a lot easier. My boyfriend knew because he's autistic and was encouraging me to get diagnosed. And then the next person that I told after like telling the people on the day was my boss. So telling people online and like, I don't think I ever actually like did the whole like, I'm autistic. I just started reading and retweeting a lot of different threads about autism and being autistic and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I found relatable people. I found people that I really, really related to. And I saw suddenly like, oh, I can have a place in this community. I do fit in here. And like ever so slowly as I got that like validation online and people still reacted to me like a full person, not just an autistic person who we must step on eggshells around and be careful about. They just reacted to me like a person still. And little by little, I got more and more comfortable with being able to say like, hi, I'm an autistic person. And you know, that's never how I'm going to introduce myself to people in real life. I'm not going to like meet my boyfriend's work colleagues and be like, hi, I'm Dana, I'm autistic. But I'm not bothered about like if it comes up in conversation or if someone's talking about it. I don't mind being like, yeah, well, this is wrong or this is right. And if they're like, well, how do you know? Well, I'm autistic, I'm part of the community, I know. But as I say, it definitely came on like little by little for me. And I feel like that's the same with anything about yourself that you need to come out with. You know, if you'd spoken to like little 14-year-old me about being gay or bisexual or queer or whatever, she would have been like, I sometimes think that I might like girls. Whereas now I'm just like, yo, I'm gay as heck. Like, I don't even need like the bi label. I don't just have attraction to males and females. I'm just queer as heck. I'm very, very gay. And I'm very comfortable with that now. And it's the same with the whole autism thing. Just the more that you tell people and interact with other autistic people as well, the easier it is to just be like, well, yeah, I'm autistic. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not ashamed. I'm still sometimes concerned about how people are going to react because it can get very, very awkward. But for the most part, especially in real life, they don't want it to be awkward either. So if they're uncomfortable about it in any way, they just sort of skim over it. And if they're a good person, like one of my favourite reactions that I've had came from one of my mum's neighbours, because it came up in conversation. I mentioned like quite offhandedly that I was autistic and she was like, oh, are ya? So I was like, oh yeah, that's why I'm like a little bit awkward and that. And she was so nice. She was just like, oh, well, it's not awkward. It's just how you are. It's just you as a person. And I think you're nice. And then the conversation just carried on. And it was the nicest reaction I've had so far in real life, I think. It was just really affirming of me as a person. And she didn't even like put any effort into it. She's just that nice. But you know, it's having those little validating moments and the moments where you realise that most people, like even the ones that don't have any understanding of autism, still most people want to be nice people. They want to be good people. They don't want to make you upset or uncomfortable or whatever else. So if they really don't know crap about autism, they'll probably just be like, oh, okay, and then move the conversation on. And you know, you might get a nice little comment like that makes you feel really good, and then the conversation moves on. That's me post. It's one of those things that feels like the biggest deal. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that if you haven't been telling people openly, it feels like the biggest deal. But once you start doing it, it's really just not that bad anymore. And the more you do it, the easier it is. As always though, this is exclusively from me and my life and my experience. I'm not in a place or around people where it would be dangerous for me to admit that I have a disability. I'm not around people or situations where, you know, anything negative, like hugely negative, is going to happen to me because of people knowing I'm autistic. It's just not. Like, the absolute worst thing that'll happen to me is someone says something a bit mean. And, you know, it's not nice, but I can deal with that easily. But I understand that not everyone is in these situations in the same places as me and blah, blah, blah. For some people, in some situations and in some places, telling people that you're autistic is going to have a really negative impact on your life. I fully acknowledge that. And I'm really, really sorry that some people, if you're one of them, I'm really sorry that you're in a situation where you can't be honest about, like, your true, authentic self that you are. It sucks. However, in the similar way to, like, when you're coming out as gay, it is a case of you've got to assess, like, is this a safe situation for me to tell people? Are these people that I'm safe around telling? And I can only hope that as, like, awareness of what autism is continues to grow and more people are advocating, like, for us as autistic people, like other autistic people advocating, blah, blah, blah. I only hope that it gets better for people that aren't in as good of a situation as me. But, you know, it's necessary to address that I am in a very privileged situation in being able to just drop it into conversation and not really have any concern. You know, and I'm also in a place financially where, like, yeah, I have no money, I'm broke 24/7, but I'm not gonna not be able to pay rent or bills or whatever else because I haven't gotten a job because people can see that I'm autistic online or something, you know? Like, just, there's no negative effects that are going to impact me, really, aside from the odd mean comment for people knowing that I'm autistic. But not everyone's in that situation. You know, that being said, if you are in a position where it's safe and you're comfortable to do so and everything, I think the more people that are just openly autistic, the better. Because people are it's gonna normalise us to people, essentially, you know. It's weird to, like, have to do that, but it's what's gonna happen. I've had a lot of people, like, in real life and on various social platforms, so I'm like, oh, I didn't realise that autistic people could be like you. It's, like, completely changed how I view autism. And, you know, there's so many of us and we're all so different. I would really hope that eventually neurotypicals and holistic people and whatever else are aware of, like, not just what autistic people are like and how to accommodate to us and treat us like normal people, but, like, all people with disabilities and neurodivergencies. You know, the more we speak up and show ourselves as, like, our true authentic selves, the more people are going to understand us. Is my thoughts on it. That's my opinion. I don't know, I could be very, very wrong. But yeah, that's why I make these videos and things like that. I just think it's really important to normalise us while also offering relatability to other people, because as much as I have found people that I relate to now, I've still not found that many people I relate to on YouTube. And some of the ones that I have found that I relate to, I'm not the biggest fan of their content. So I just, you know, the more of us that are out here, the more relatable people there are for other autistic people to find and for, like, neurotypicals to learn from and be taught by. And I just think it's a good thing. Just oversaturate the market. I'm pretty sure that's all I had to say for today. I'm so sure I've forgotten something, because this video is only 20 minutes long and they're normally like 40, so I'm just like, I must have forgotten something. But I think this might just be a slightly easier topic for me to talk about, so I'm gonna go with what I've got. I think I've said everything. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, whatever you have. Did my voice just break? Whatever you have, and I hope you have a good one. I'm gonna go and give my balls time to drop. I'll see you in a few days.